everybody.
What's up?
Okay,
That was intense.
so I was just texting with my mom and my sister.
Okay.
Have you... Okay, but I couldn't remember. So
Can I go?
we're talking about just... You're old man. You're old man.
I was even going to live on this.
So, why? It's already... No, don't.
Oh.
Don't say that.
Okay.
So, do you have a fall story for your children? Like, did you drop them? That's not on. Did you drop them? Whoa. Did you drop them? Did you, did they have a bad head bonk? Do you have any stories like that? Because we were exchanging stories, and I know the one with Carnegie. He was in his car seat, and his car seat flung forward, and he slammed his head like this on a door frame, like so bad that the goose egg on his head had the imprint of the door frame. So like his goose egg went like this, and then like it was so gross.
Can you please go back?
No, I can't.
It's like,
and I can't because I can't
like
see. I can't see. You're fine. I can't see, and
no, like wait for it back.
No,
okay.
I can't. I want to rest my arms. It's like I'm more comfortable. I don't sitting back like this is weird. So do you have a story like that? Because I can only think of that one time. But like to me, that was like dropping him as a baby. But I couldn't think of a time when we dropped Chamberlain, or like I've thought of times where she's hurt herself. I've heard of times when she's hurt herself, but knock on wood.
Chamberlain, I was more
knock on some wood over here.
At least meet me in the middle. So
okay, well I have to do this first.
Okay. I always I mean, I feel like Chamberlain was more of the danger where she would run around and be like, don't impale yourself on the corner of that table. But we also were never the parents. I think a lot of it's personality too. We were never the parents that like put soft cornered edges on tables and stuff. But we also our house, just we didn't have.
Our house was dangerous for a toddler.
When
Chamberlain was a toddler.
We didn't have like sharp like
if you went to
tables,
our old house, that house was dangerous for.
There was a lot of.
We had adults that hurt themselves.
We had stairs that were not regulation.
We had stairs that were not regulation. We had like a sunken living room pit.
Yes.
I mean, there was accidents that could happen. But yeah, we never dropped her. She was always kind of a bulldozer, so she would. I actually have a video of me laughing. Filming her because Carnegie wanted to go on a bike ride and she was 2.5 years old or something, just this little tank. And she wanted to she didn't want to wear a bike, but she wanted to wear her helmet on the walk. I'm like, yeah, okay, you would want to wear your helmet on the walk. No, don't see, now you're out of it. That's why I said you didn't have to do that. That's
we get to go back.
So no, I don't want to scoot back. Like I'm not, it's very uncomfortable for me.
Okay.
So, anyway, she put her helmet to go for this walk, and wouldn't you know it, like 2 minutes later, she falls
right on her forehead.
Bam.
And she saved herself.
She saved herself by wearing that dang helmet because her head didn't hit the ground, just her like little nose. And so I have a video of myself being like, I think I sent it to you. And it was like a video on my phone that was like, look at Chamberlain wearing this helmet on her walk. Like she would wear this helmet on her walk.
This is why kids don't have a lot of fear. Like if you really think about fear, false evidence appearing real, it is a present future-based fear. Because like fear is by definition, you can say no, it's because of something happened in the past, but also you're trying to bring that into the future. But because kids are so young, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even up to 10 years old sometimes, there's just not enough, like they don't have anything there's no evidence to back up their fear.
No.
So it just doesn't really exist. And it's kind of amazing, really. Like, and I some of the things I've gotten Carnegie to do, like there was a time where I was pulling them on a skateboard. We were sitting on top of a skateboard, and I don't know where you were, but I was like riding behind on a bike with a rope on a skateboard, and he was going pretty fast. He had a helmet on, but still, I'm like, he would have gotten scraped up bad if he fell. Mm-hmm. That's a part of childhood, you know?
I was just trying to tell a funny story about Chamberlain. You cut me off right in the middle of it. Did you know you did that?
No.
Clearly.
So, sorry.
Anyway,
Go
what
on.
I was saying was that after I sent Zach that video of Chamberlain with her helmet on, she scratched her face, and she would do stuff like that all the time, like hurt herself out of a place of like stubbornness or coincidence or something, but nobody ever dropped her. If she's ever seriously hurt herself, it's always at her, she's at her mercy. It's at her mercy if she's all of her injuries, I
I
think.
wonder how much of that is based off of like temperament and like
I don't know.
personality.
I don't
Like,
know. But it was just funny because I caught it all on video.
well, that kind of makes sense though, because Carnegie is more like careful. So if he's going to get injured, it's usually because of someone else. And Chamberlain, who's a little bit more carefree, is more likely to injure herself. Like, kind of like just it's just the way of just the way of life
Mm.
for them. But
I feel like um, kid injuries are funny because you know they're gonna happen. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say you know your kid's gonna be hurt at some point, but at some point they like bonk their knee or bump their head or whatever. Get some type of, and sometimes they're a little bit more. Like Chamberlain had an earring this year that grew into her ear. Carnegie had to get like stitches on his chin because he fell at school, and there's things like that. You know they're coming, but you just never know what it's going to be or what it's going to be like. And it's a weird thing as a parent to have to take care or tend to another human when they hurt themselves because it's also highly likely that you will be gross.
yeah, a little bit.
It's a
I
weird
find
thing that
myself.
you're kind of like thrust into.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I know I struggle with empathic experiences when it comes to
Oh my
pain,
gosh, yeah.
unless it's something I've directly experienced. Like if you're dealing with a pain that I've never had, I'm very
You are
sympathetic.
very flight though when the kids are hurt.
Well, no, I
You're
just
very like, get me out of here. Just stop crying. And then you're like, fleeing. And I'm over there like,
no,
yes.
no,
You freeze.
I don't no, I wait and see what's going to happen because a lot of times it's overreaction. Because I'm like, okay, well, if you're not bleeding, like it's a blunt force trauma.
Really.
We'll see if blood comes out of your mouth. If it's like internal trauma, we'll wait and see.
I think
No, I don't. It's not that extreme.
in the
No,
meantime, I jump into action because that is like that's just my normal response though.
well,
That's like, but I'm just saying like as parents, we're fortunate because, and even if I think of our friends, like who our friends are, who have children, it's kind of like this as well. Is like I like jump into action. And I would imagine that there are people out there where they don't like they have to jump into action because maybe they're the only ones there, the only ones present, or the
yeah.
only parent or whatever. Only I mean, it doesn't have to be a parent, right? You could be a teacher at school. And kid injuries are weird because it forces you to jump into action somehow. Like it forces you to jump into action doing something that you typically would never do. Like it's not I am not a head injury expert.
Well, it depends
You're
on.
bleeding, you're this, like
I think
it's
it
a very
depends.
weird thing.
Yeah, it depends though. Sometimes it's like because I've been injured so many times and hurt so many times. It depends. I just look like when Chamberlain got like super like she got like a hot pepper in her eye. Like there
Oh,
was
that
no.
was terrible.
It's like there's
That was
nothing
so
you can
terrible.
put milk like just.
But you
I
can
so
console her. You were thinking of the pain. Zach was trying to get rid of her pain, but she just needed consoling because there was literally nothing we could do to make it stop quicker
yeah
except doing what it was that we were doing, which was trying to like rinse it out and get it out and find it. And you were just like, get over it's gonna pass. But you were uncomfortable. Like that's not a space that you like to be in when someone else is in that much pain.
yeah.
But she was in a lot of pain. I've done so. I in a previous life I was a birth doula, and
So maybe you hold that space better.
with no, actually I don't actually like actually enjoy holding my space powder, but what I can tell you is the difference between that controllable pain and the uncontrollable pain.
Okay.
And so when you have pain, for the most part,
yeah,
that can be controlled.
Yeah. So
it's very much a mindset. However, when you get so far past or so far deep in pain, your body will start responding in a way that you can't stop. And she was in so much pain, her little body was like shaking like uncontrollably, not shaking from crying, but that tremory shaking from pain. If you've ever been hurt that bad, it's the worst feeling, because then you're like, because then you have pain and then you're also like uncontrollably shaking because your body's in shock. And that's like what was happening for her. And it's hard because it's like the only thing you can do is just like console someone in those moments. But I'm just saying, as parents, when your kids get injured, it really throws you into a hat that you, number one, don't want, probably have to put on at some extent in your, in your lifetime as a parent, and it's just not fun.
Yeah.
We were just exchanging stories of baby falls, and I was like, that's a weird thing that you just don't want to have to deal with.
No.
Because I don't know if the kids have ever gotten hurt by you when you've been by yourself.
No, not
Which
really.
is wild, because you do the craziest stuff with them.
Yeah. Or I just don't tell you. Or I just don't tell you, and then they eventually get over it.
No, that's never happened.
Maybe.
Do
you have any? Well, I want to talk about conditions today, so I was curious. Do you have any conditions around? Like, I feel like we haven't really had a conversation around our children when it comes to like danger.
What do you mean danger?
So one of the things that we do in our workshop, which is this weekend, by the way, woo, is we get clear on like hidden conditions that take us out of the experience of being related. And there's a lot more to explore on that. But I was thinking, when it comes to like the children, that's actually a conversation you and I have never really had. We haven't really had a lot of those conversations.
Those aren't conditions, but
I'm saying like, no, because a lot of couples, like a lot of parents and couples, in fact, we've mentored with quite a bit of couples where a lot of the source of upset in their marriage and their relationship is parenting, and like how they're interacting with the children in various situations, right? I know I've had those conversations.
Yeah, but maybe you're just applying the wrong language to it. I see what you're saying, but that's not the. I don't think conditions is the right.
Well, maybe request conditions. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
I think there's there. I think you're thinking of like the game you play around parenting would be the more appropriate.
Yeah, but
there's agreements and rules.
Yeah, there's agreements and rules, and the conditions of the game. Where are those out of bounds? Like what causes you to blow the whistle in the game of parenting? We haven't really.
I think
you and I have never really.
Language. I don't think that's correct.
I think so. I mean, I think it is. We just haven't had a lot of. We've been, I think, very fortunate in the sense that we haven't been pushed up against a wall. Really, our backgrounds are different with how we were raised, but at the same time, from a value standpoint, not that much different. Like, we don't have dramatically
from
different.
A value standpoint, no. From a nurturing, boundary setting, emotional standpoint, extremely different.
Yes.
And I think also we are getting to a point, at least with Carnegie, because he asked me about it. So we went hiking the other day, and there was paragliders in the air. Flying? What do you say? There's paragliders gliding. And he was like, Mom, how old do you have to be to do that? And I said, I don't know. I'm guessing it's a weight thing. I'm guessing. I have no idea. Maybe 12.
I bet you can do it younger if you do it with somebody.
It's only paragliders. Like, you have to do
you can do it double.
That's.
I've seen it, yeah. Oh, paragliders when you're behind the boat.
No.
That's when you jump off the cliff, right?
No. The ones we saw, you have to do it with someone, unless you have, it's like skydiving, like you can go by yourself.
Yes.
You have to go with a professional.
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, he was like, yeah, Mom, we should do that. And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, I'll do it. And I was like, I don't know if I want you to do it. at least today. And so we just talked about it. He said, he was like, well, when do you think you would allow me to do it? Or when do you think it would be appropriate for me to do it? Or when do you think you would feel safe, Mom, with me doing that? And I didn't have an answer. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's not that I wouldn't allow him to do it. I think he would love it. Like, he wants to be a pilot in the air. He will have a And I think there are some things you just will allow the space for your kids to do that you'll never really be comfortable with. Like, I don't think I ever really, I mean, if I'm really honest with myself, I don't think I ever really want him flying a plane. But I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that that kid learns how to fly a plane. But it's also like, it's a very weird, like,
Well,
space.
it starts with acknowledging the fear, though. Like you're present.
It's
but
definitely like mine that I'm placing upon him.
It's worthwhile to notice, even for us. Like it's kind of fun for us. We'll do this sometimes in our own exercise. Is we'll go back and our 17 years together, and you don't have to look very far. It becomes quite obvious a lot of the massive like, issues we've had were with our kids. It's just because it was from an unshared fear. Almost every single time.
Well,
and the fact that you're like, no, it's fearful, but that doesn't stop the form of building and creating and relating.
No, and I told him, because this is about our relationship, like mine and his, and I told him, I said, you could do it, and I don't have to do it. And then it was really funny because he said, well, you jump off cliffs and stuff. Like, that's also scary.
He said that to you?
Yeah.
Oh, about like
he's like, that's also scary. And I said, yeah. I said, sure, but I said, I feel like I have a little more control with that because I get to control where I jump off, how far I go out. It's like my ability to swim, my ability to hold my breath, my ability of when I say go. I said, so there's something about that to me, jumping out of a plane with like a parachute or paragliding, it's like some of that is like totally out of my control.
Yeah.
And so, and I said, but it doesn't mean that you have to be, because I was really cautious about placing my fear onto him. If I didn't want him to be scared of trying what we're doing.
That's actually worthwhile noticing. Well, that might be.
But it was good.
Let me think through this real fast. There are certain like limits that I think all of us, whether it be on an individual experience or inside of a relationship, we experience that we're willing to up against, but not go across. And what I'm hearing you say is that you don't mind engaging with danger, but it's like there's let's say as long as the variables of the unknown are less than 5. Like cliff where you jump off a cliff, like you can kind of control how deep you go based on how you jump. But like in general, you're not 30 feet down like you are scuba diving. It probably explains why you don't like to scuba dive because there's additional variables that if something does go wrong, you're actually out of control.
There's actually way more about scuba diving than I want to.
Well, I'm saying there's that I just listed one, but I'm saying like the things you do are typically have less variables.
Yes.
So there's a desire that you have of control.
Yes.
Over success.
Yeah, I think that's success.
Well, there's a desire you have over control.
Period. So I guess you could say extreme things that you could do: bungee jumping, zip lining, skydiving.
What makes that so though for you? Like I always like, what is it? Just you chalk it up to just temperament, personality?
Well, I don't know, because I think there's certain things that, if I think of like risk, there's certain things or adventurous things that you can do that have less likelihood of permanent damage or death. Okay. So if I'm ziplining in Mexico, God forbid my zip line falls and I just like fall to the ground. Am I high off the ground? Yes. It's going to be a slower fall because I've got all this equipment and like the lines. Yeah, so it's going to be a slower fall down if I fall. Are there a ton of safety measures? Yeah. Would I still probably get hurt? Yes. But the likelihood that I would die is like way down. There's so many safety measures in place.
Yeah, it's funny.
And I realize that the same thing is true for skydiving. I realize the same thing is true for like there's so many safety measures like in place. I logically understand that, and yet still I'm like the benefit of like the view or the experience, whatever, still for me doesn't outweigh the. It's like it would be like climbing Mount Everest, same thing. Like the elements and all of that. I actually really believe that I could do. I really actually do. I don't want to subject myself to such unpredictability.
Yeah, well, yeah,
and like the benefit and the cost, like the cost is actual death. Like it's not like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and same thing with skydiving.
It's not like,
I don't
it's
know.
not like for example, like whitewater rafting. There is a risk element. The cost is death, I guess, too.
Yeah.
But the likelihood. So there's like a
there's like a
but some people, it doesn't mean like
No.
we would as a family. My Kaylee went with was like 7 years old, just in the front. I can't even imagine Chamberlain doing that right now.
No, and
why is that?
honestly, my tune changed about whitewater rafting only because one of our friends, Dan, was a guide for a really long time, and so she's changed my tune on that a little
Like
bit.
in a good way or bad way?
In a good way.
Oh, in a good way.
Yeah, because I think before meeting with him, I'm like, heck no, never doing that, not even gonna consider it, never in my life, don't want to. The answer is no.
Have you guys ever been whitewater rafting?
So she's seen my. I haven't gone whitewater rafting. I haven't been rafting before, and it's gotten pretty rough, but nothing like whitewater rafting. But even still, but there's certain elements, right? So for me, space. Like I have no desire to go to space. Like I don't care if the spaceship is taken off, and that's like the only way to live.
You're gonna die on God's green earth.
I'm just like no, and that's how I feel about the ocean, and water. So I think for me, whitewater rafting does bring up that like water fear. I don't know.
Yeah, fear is really we. I'm not saying we love the topic of fear, but it's
we love it.
But it's just it's so once you actually get clear on it, it becomes quite apparent how easily you can actually it's really an individual experience. Like you could be fearful of somebody, but the fear is always held from the self.
What I think is interesting about what I think is interesting about fear is that sometimes a very rare experience people will let take over their entire lives.
Tell me more. Rare experience?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Like, I'm trying to think of one that I.
Do you mean rare as in like an anomaly rarity, or like
very rare experience?
Like an eagle attacks your hair.
Yes, and then you're afraid of eagles for the rest of your life. You're like scared of birds.
All birds.
All birds.
Got it.
And it's so consuming. And what's so silly to me is when you really think about it, and then you think of the rarity, and you think of all of these things, and whatever it is at some point you have to enjoy that part of your story.
Yes.
At some point. At some point you have to enjoy that responsibility of protecting your fear because of how you know yourself. So it's almost like a bird attacked my hair, so I get to be scared of birds. It's like that's also a lot of effort. But if you would like to continue doing that, go for it.
That is very rare. So I think less people will relate to that. However, I think
I'm saying people's rare
fears. Oh no, I agree with you. No, that's a very interesting point.
I'm just saying, like, if you had an incident in water, I almost drowned when I was a kid. I was like 7 years old, and you choked when you were a kid.
Oh, but
like you still eat chips.
Oh yeah.
Like it didn't. Right?
It's present, but you move past it.
Yes.
And I almost drowned when I was little.
Yeah, and I almost drowned, and it was absolutely terrifying. Now, am I extra cautious with my children around water? 100%. Actually, I'm cautious with everyone's children around water. I am lasered in when kids are in water, and I think that feeling is there, but that feeling of being lasered into kids being in water isn't from my experience of almost drowning. It's in my experience of being a parent, right? Like it's not like a fear for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say too, like what's showing up to me when you're sharing is that your experiences like that are like, oh wow, that's crazy. But notice that when everyone's been in those situations, whether it be at a family setting around a campfire, in a conference room training, where everyone starts laughing when an individual shares about some folly in their marriage or the relationship or a fear, so
Mhm.
a problem or a fear. And a lot of times
Mhm.
we see fears as problems, right?
Mhm.
But we share them when you're in it. It's like the problem is experienced like this is something that is our issue,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah, you're the only one.
and it's not going to work out for us. And
Mhm.
what's swirling around is usually a lot of unspoken fears,
Mhm.
unspoken wants, and hidden conditions, things like that, and it's creating a problem.
Mhm.
Yet when it's shared, the entire doesn't matter if it's a friend. I mean, it's part of it's an eagle attacking your hair or something like that. But in general, something that even if it's like a fear around, like oh yeah, like a dog bit me. There's enough people that bit by dogs, but they can totally fall into agreement with you.
Mhm.
My point is like when you share problems and major breakdowns, it's like everyone starts laughing, and it's
Mhm.
like that alone should be an indicator that it's not it's less of a problem rather than it's just ordinary and no
Right, that it's not a problem, it's ordinary. Kind of like
and there's really no problem. Like, problems are a problem for us is an well, a problem for you might be an opportunity for us.
right,
Like if you get a flat tire, that's a
right,
problem. But talk to a tire replacement center, that's not a problem. Like
right,
it would be a problem if people didn't get flat tires.
right.
So it's just interesting how like we view it as such a huge issue, and we view our fears as a problem. Like imagine walking outside and you're always like, and there are probably
Some
people like
people
that,
do.
right? And that's a
Some people
problem,
do.
right?
It's a very real
And
thing
then
for people.
to a certain psychologist, I'm sure they don't see that as a problem. They're like
Oh, that person
clients,
needs to talk about
clients,
stuff.
baby.
Uh,
So it's we laugh because we all know it, we all live it, and it's just like that alone is I think just worth being aware of.
well, it
Yeah.
is funny what you say about it. If when people start laughing about something that you share, and not out of being uncomfortable, but out
Relatedness.
of relatedness to you, you almost instantly know that you're in the presence of extremely ordinary
Yes.
and not a problem. Like when women talk about man colds, we all laugh because we know what we're talking about. And the man cold is not necessarily a problem, it's relatability and it is
Hmm.
ordinary, right? Like the man cold is a very ordinary thing.
Yeah, it's not like
But
your husband's
that
the
we
only
that we
man.
label, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so but with that though, another example that I was thinking of is like spiders. Like a lot of people are grossed out or fearful of spiders or bugs or whatever, and it's kind of a laughable, ordinary thing. And you almost know it to be ordinary because sometimes it probably doesn't bother you. Like sometimes the man cold doesn't always bother me,
Hmm.
or a bug or a spider doesn't always bother me. The kids called me into the bathroom the other day because there was a spider in the corner. And so I knew there was a spider in the corner. So I went over and
Mm.
Timberland needed to get something up on the shelf. So I like got it for her. And they were like, "Are you gonna do anything about the spider?" And I was like, "No, I'm not actually." And they were like, I was like, "Well, what is he doing to you?" And we just had this conversation and whatever. But sometimes
Yeah.
if I was in the bathroom and that spider had surprised me, if I looked up and was like, then it's like
Hmm.
this fear of spiders, and I probably would have been like, Zach, don't get the spider. But it was just a very ordinary thing because I had control over the situation and I
Yep.
knew what to expect and all of this stuff. And it is funny because the at the gym the other day, they stack all of the thick yoga mats together
Yes.
in a corner. And someone pulled off a yoga mat. I kid you not. It was a spider, like
Oh,
and it
hate.
was those big black juicy kinds with the big butt and they're
Oh,
shiny. I mean, thick. It looked like
yeah.
maybe it had
That's enough about
babies.
the spider.
Okay,
Go on.
it looked like a cartoon. And so these two ladies are taking, one's holding one end of the yoga mat and the other's holding the other yoga mat because the spider was crawling up like this and going like this on the yoga mat. So these ladies are trying to carry it outside. Meanwhile, I'm like, why don't they just squish the spider? But then I
Ew, that
thought,
make guts go everywhere.
yeah, it was like too big.
Too
It
big
was
to
too
crush.
big to crush,
Yeah, too
kind of
big.
like, and too big to grab with toilet paper.
Okay, aggressive.
Okay, but my point is that it was really funny and it was very ordinary because it's something that people
All relate to.
Yeah. Being scared of this like tiny little thing. And we were all cracking up. And even though in our fear, everybody was kind of trying to take a peek at it. And whenever somebody would get a glimpse of it, they'd be like, ew, right? And so, but it was just so ordinary. And what was funny, these two ladies that I see every week in yoga, walking through the gym. And you know how related everybody was to them in that very moment?
Yes.
Everyone in the gym was coming over to see what they were doing, what was happening over there.
Yes.
We were laughing
Well,
together. Like it was all just from like exposed fear.
there's a section that we do that over the week that we'll be doing this weekend that people write down, the whole group write downs all the problems in relationships. And I kid you not, all of it looks familiar,
Oh, it will be
recognizable,
so familiar.
and people laugh, and it's like there's a sense of like lightness, and we actually you can almost feel it in the room. You look at these problems, and it actually brings joy because there's a sense of like I'm not alone because it's that ordinary.
Well, it's a sense
And
of I'm not alone and a sense of like I contribute to it.
well, I contribute to that, and you might say, well, what are we supposed to do? Just accept over, just be okay with a bunch of problems? It's like, well, the question to ask is, I think, what's behind that? That is, I think, there's something undermining a lot of the experience of being that pulls us out of that experience of being, what we would call connected or
Yeah.
togetherness.
Well, there's something that you have an opportunity to do something else if you want, to notice it differently. We were just coaching with a couple this morning who noticed a
Yeah.
pattern in their day, in their morning and in their night routine, and they noticed some things, so they just chose differently. And now they're like, "Whoa, that like changed our whole day." That just
Let me ask you this. Knowing that how you see things determines the actions. Like the actions you take are based on how you perceive something. So, when you think about our relationship, and you could pick any example,
man cold.
what is something that what is something that you perceived one way for a long time, and it only resulted in one action from you, but you then had another view on the same thing, a different view that changed your action?
Oh, easy.
Okay.
When you used to get really upset about me not wanting to do things or whatever,
Yeah.
you would get really mad at me, and then I would get really mad at you for getting mad at me. But what I noticed was you really just were losing a sense of like freedom and flexibility. And the second that I learned that in your wanting to plan or go on dates or going on an adventure or doing this or doing that, blah, 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 it wasn't to be annoying or make me feel a certain way. It was actually because you wanted some freedom and flexibility. And by me saying, no, you can't go do that, or no, I don't want to go do that, I don't feel well, whatever, to you, it was like, you don't have any more freedom to go do what you want and flexibility, you don't get it because I said no. And once I realized that you actually just wanted some freedom, I learned that all I had to say was, no, feel free to go do it. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm
Yes.
okay on my own. I don't feel well. Go, like, have all of it you want. Go for it.
Mm.
Because it was a different perspective. Because in my mind, I was like, he's doing this on purpose. He's making me crazy and he's making me feel lazy and he doesn't understand, like, how much pain I'm in. And I was just making you wrong and, like, adding to the picture of you being the villain in my life and causing all my problems
Yep.
rather than going, oh, he's actually just trying to search for some flexibility and a little freedom in his schedule and in the things that he wants to do. And I can give you that.
It's very hard.
It was a point of view. That point of
Yeah.
view shifted a lot for me, because if you're ever feeling like, if I can ever see that you're feeling trapped, I'll even figure it out. I'll say, oh, I know you're feeling trapped right now, but I'm actually like, this is actually totally okay, or this is what you can do. And I'll make sure that you like point out where you have flexibility and
Yeah,
room to play. Like, I know that
and
now.
I would tell you that I think a fear that I have that's often unspoken is where I bite back. Let's say if I think this is where the out of bounds is,
Mm-hmm.
and so then, but I don't tell you like, hey, I think this is the out of bounds, and then it's in what I think you're doing more proactively, and sometimes I don't even have to even share the fear. You say, no, 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 you actually have 100 yards more that way, metaphorically speaking. Like
Yeah.
but that's what you say, no, it's fine if you go do that because a lot of times, yeah, it's like it's no different than like guilt,
Or
like
parenting.
like no, like it's kind of a parent guilt of like, oh, I feel like you make up a story of guilt because you are supposed to stay in these boundaries of behavior. And I think when you realize the need for freedom, it's like, no, Zach, that's actually not out of bounds for
Mm-hmm.
our couple. You can actually go beyond that.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah. Like, I
which is
don't,
more freedom.
right. I'm not very stereotypical, like, I don't know. So I will remind you, I will have to remind you sometimes. Like,
Yes.
when I say I don't care, when I say everything's fine, I actually mean I don't care and everything's fine. Like, I actually
Could you imagine?
because I know.
Can you imagine that? What a way to
When you
function.
say it, no, I got a broken prod a little.
What a way to function. We do have
But anyway,
yeah,
I
okay.
want to
Sorry.
keep you okay. So, but with that though, when your point of view changes, like we were talking about, you getting freedom to like go do stuff, or like, and you were making me wrong for not wanting to, I would make you wrong. But I think switching that point of view, even on vacation's a really good example, because both of us like to adventure, we like to
Yes.
explore. We also like to chill. We also like to relax.
It's 50-50.
Yeah. And so I know now, going in, we need to be sure we have some time for that.
Yeah.
We need to be sure we
And
have time for this. And so where you used to be like, stop scheduling all of our trips. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, no, no. Part of the scheduled time is the freedom to do whatever it is that we want.
yes. And expanding on that, the quality of the experience we have as a relationship, and this is for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. If you look at the quality,
Mm-hmm.
it usually stands on the detailed formation of what we agreed on. And what I mean by that is this one thing, what do you mean by free time?
Mm-hmm.
And so many times it could be nefarious. Free time to you means us both sitting together, relaxing freely, doing nothing. But I think what we both agreed on, what we both noticed is a lot of times when we're in our workshops in Mexico
Mm-hmm.
with the relationship by design, is when we have our free time, we do spend it, let's say by the pool or the beach, we're doing something together.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a freedom of individuality there too. I never
Yeah.
feel like I have to sit somewhere with you.
Or if I do, I know now that if we do our free time and I actually want to be with you during that time, I just tell you like, well, no, I want to be with you though.
Yes.
And I'll just say that instead of being like, he wants to go do this on his free time. I'm like, no, during this free time, like I haven't seen you. I want to like, I'm sorry, I have a sneeze that's stuck right here. It's like you playing with my nose because it won't come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I want to, like, if I do want to be with you, then I will say that,
See what
because
this
we're not very codependent on each other.
no. But what I want to point out for anyone listening to this right now,
Yeah.
what this sounds like, it's easy to collapse this into we're just communicating. Yeah, it's just communication. There's actually something much more powerful going on fundamentally that is worthwhile to notice.
Mm-hmm.
That while there's a reason why our workshops on what a relationship is 2 full days, but
For
4 days. But no, what a relationship is 2 days, and then we create upon that is the second weekend. Um, there's something much more powerful going on that is happening in terms of the foundation of a successful or what we call a strong relationship stands on declaring, sharing, and making promises and commitments to each other. And what we're not really going into detail on is the formation of that agreement on what those things look like. And like a lot of times, depending on the level of fear, sometimes individuality, sort of on an individual basis, depending on the level of fear, or I would call it maybe preferences or conditions, determines, I think, how deep we go in making that promise. Because it's one thing to be like, "Do you want to sit by the pool with me?" Yes, but
Yeah, but I
that
think
opens up a lot of other.
those are more requests. I don't know if
Correct.
those
Yeah.
are necessarily strengthen or collapse our relationship. Those
Correct.
are more requests.
And no, I know it's like you can't really don't have time to go into it. But when we go on vacations, a lot of times there is a conversation that is had before we go.
Sometimes we have to think on the fly when we get there.
Yeah,
This last time we went, we both weren't feeling well, and we ended up doing absolutely nothing like the whole time. It was actually the first time we ever left the resort.
We had a free paid event that we never went to. Well, no, we did. We did.
Oh, that was literally the only time we left, and we were like, we should not have done that. And it was fine. It was fine. But it was like the first time we actually did nothing. We just stayed at the resort the whole time. But that was kind of a chosen thing. But once we had decided, yeah, we just are you cool? Like staying here the whole time?
Yeah.
Then it was kind of nice. Not that I want to do that every time, but it was like a relief because we both decided. That was the joy of missing out.
That was the joy.
That was an example of really just the joy of missing out.
It's
having 7 days of just like.
It's funny you assign that to it because you know what I would have assigned to it was the joy of avoiding pain and entrapment. So I didn't want to be stuck anywhere I didn't want to be. So the assignment of language that I would use was not missing out, because to miss out would be knowledge, of course.
Yeah, you do like all of those things, though, typically, that we missed out on.
Correct. Until I don't like it, and then it's entrapment.
You're really easy to live with.
I know. We're slippery sons of bitches. Sure. Hey, we didn't get flagged for nudity.
Hey, that's a win.
If you were watching us earlier this week,
win for this Friday.
We got banned from nudity.
Is not getting flagged. What's so? Yeah, I can't
offensive,
even right now.
Explicit content
with bots and people not being real people. If you're a real person, please comment and say hi on one of the platforms that we're streaming on right now, because that would be awesome.
Business. Thank you. Appreciate
it. Not a bot.
Yes, not a bot. We got a real. Thanks for hanging
out. Been so flooded with bots, and I feel like it got worse after we got flagged for nudity. It's like all of the nudity bots were like, "Ooh,
we are a real person. Real person.
We should have. Okay, we should have a real person code word.
Yes.
That only the real people know.
Send us a DM and we'll give you the
secret code word.
Give you the secret code word.
The bots, especially on Instagram right now, are just like everybody's profile picture is of a booty and a bikini bottom.
Hey, I liked your profile. It's like, I like your butt.
That's so true. It's so true. So true.
And you know, it's like stock language. It's a picture of us and like, hey, cutie. It's like, which one are you talking to?
The best are on my one where it's like, hey, you want to be my sugar baby? And I'll pay you $2,000 a week.
Just need your wire and bank account information.
Just need your bank account information. I'm like, who's calling for this stuff? Come on, guys. Look better. At this point, I think it's bots hooking other bots.
Oh, yeah.
Just incestuous bot banking happening in the DMs.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Okay, we have to get ready for this weekend. We got a room to set up. We have to go get stuff more printed. Yes. We got name tags to create. I'm so pumped for this weekend. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so we have
great. Our first
We have
in-person
a couple
event
coming in
since
from Canada. It's a big
2020.
deal. And if you enjoy the conversation, you can check out obviously our page. We also have a brand new PDF on called "What to Say When Guide,"
Oh yeah, check
and we have
that
more
out.
resources coming.
And if you are a newlywed or planning on getting engaged, we have something.
You
Mm-hmm.
create powerful vows together.
Yeah, and why it's so important. I think that you could also take this free course. It will be free course. I think you can also take it if you're just attending a wedding,
I'd
personally.
agree. Yeah,
Because if you're going to a wedding during this wedding season, you have a responsibility.
you do. You are in
You have
shared agreement.
an unspoken responsibility
That should be spoken.
that should be said out loud.
Could be.
And
Could
for
be.
some of you, you even
A
signed
lot could
it
be.
on your RSVP card.
Ooh, more to come on that,
Yeah.
y'all. Thank you for hanging out with everybody.
Yep.
We love y'all. Catch you around.
Catch ya.
And
Have a great Friday. Oh, you gotta move this.